This is Ian Lamont. I'm an experienced independent publisher, and today I'm going to be walking you through a brief review of Atticus for publishers. Atticus is an online software application for writing and publishing books. Information on how to contact me is in the description and bio, and let's get started. So this is the Atticus landing page. It kind of prompts you to write and format stunning books. I'm interested in the formatting and the publishing part of this, not so much in the writing part of it. But I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons of the software application after using it for about a month and a half or so. And for your reference, as I said before, I'm an experienced independent publisher. This is my KDP area, and you can see I have lots of books there. Some of them are books I've written. Others are books that I've contracted, or I've have a publishing contract with other authors. And basically, I've been using Amazon KDP for many years. And one of the things that comes up with publishing on Amazon is you need covers, you need interiors. And until now, I've basically been hiring graphic designers to do that work, not just the cover, but also the interior design. It's expensive, and also there's kind of a lot of back and forth with the designers to get something done, and sometimes it's not as quick as I'd like it to be. Importantly, my interior designer retired recently. He retired last year, so I've been kind of left out in the cold. I used another graphic designer to do the interior of the last book that we published, which was the second edition of Social Security in 30 Minutes by Emily Pogue. But that was really expensive, and I decided I wanted to try some of the new generation of kind of DIY tools that are out there. So Atticus is one of them. The reason why I chose it is because it lets you basically create a single manuscript, and then you can export to EPUB and to a PDF version of it, which appeals to me. By the way, Amazon has a very similar tool. I shouldn't say a similar tool. It does a similar thing. You can basically export to PDF or to EPUB. The problem I have with Amazon, with many things related to Amazon, is support is terrible. And basically, they don't really care that much about any of their suppliers. They're obsessed about customers only. So they made this tool available, which is nice. But if there's a problem with it, I don't count on getting much support from Amazon. Whereas Atticus, I've actually found the support levels are very high. That's one of the pros of this particular tool. However, Amazon's tool is free. This one costs money, and I get into that in a minute. So basically, when you come to Atticus, you can upload a book, you can start a new book, you can create a new box set. What I did is I started a new book, and then I imported chapters that were already in Microsoft Word. And this is the book right here. It's Genealogy in 30 Minutes. And basically, you can see all these on the left here. These are all the chapters. These were individual Word files before. I'm not going to get too much into the details of the formatting issues for Word files, but basically, Atticus wants the Word files to be set up in a certain way. So you have to be really careful that it doesn't contain a lot of extra stuff that Atticus doesn't want to deal with. And they want, for instance, the title to use a certain formatting in the Word file. I was able to do that. I'm a professional publisher, so I understand the steps there. But if you're new to publishing or working with Microsoft Word files, or maybe you're doing something like using Google Docs and you need to convert it to Microsoft Word, then re-upload it, just be aware that there's some restrictions on the way that Atticus can handle Word docs. I was able to work it out, but it might cause some trouble for other folks. I actually found that the tool Atticus is relatively easy to learn. I've used other publishing tools or writing tools in the past, such as Scrivener. Scrivener is an interesting tool. It was basically created by a computer programmer, a British one, I believe, maybe 15 years ago. And unfortunately, it's set up like a compiler, like a computer programming compiler, not like a writing tool. And there's other issues with Scrivener as well. For instance, when they changed their version from Scrivener, I think it was from 2 to 3, my old files wouldn't open up anymore. It was just like, it wasn't really a user-friendly type of tool. And I think Atticus, they've addressed a lot of the shortcomings of a tool like Scrivener. They've made it pretty easy to use. Like at the very top, they have this formatting toolbar. If I wanted to add an image, I'd place my cursor here, I'd go to the image, and then I'd upload it or drag it in there. So that's very straightforward. I thought that is a pretty flexible way to work with it. It's much cheaper for me to use this tool than it is to hire an interior designer. So interior designer, if you're hiring one for your book, expect to pay, if it's someone in the United States, expect to pay at least $1,000, maybe even a lot more than that. Overseas, you can get it for cheaper, but there's some quality issues, and there's also some legal responsibility issues. But basically, using Atticus, I was able to bypass that part of it. So that's good. it creates a print PDF as well as an EPUB from the same master. So I really like this because before, when I was working with actually, let me show you how that works. So basically, when I was working before with an interior designer, the interior designer was using InDesign, and then he would do the paperback and the hardcover version first. Then he would have to kind of create I believe, a separate file to work on the EPUB, and then at that point, the changes that you made for the EPUB weren't reflected in the separate file that he had for the PDF version of it. And also, the other thing that was happening was it was syncing up with a Microsoft Word document master that I had in Dropbox. And anyways, it was getting complicated. I like this because it's basically one file, and then you can export EPUB, PDF, as well as a docx backup, which is really, really useful. I haven't used the snapshots feature. The other thing is, if you do the content backup, that will create an Atticus native backup file, which you can use to get your stuff back, which is useful. So I have a whole folder full of content backups, which is useful because it makes you feel better that, okay, if something happens, like if my computer crashes or there's a storm and my electricity goes out, at least I'll have the backups that I can use to basically upload things again. And then support is really good right now, and that I like that part of it too. So I've had questions about, like, how do I do something? What was an example? Oh yeah, so the title page. Atticus has a title page that was basically draws from your publisher information, and I was having issues with it. It wasn't showing something that was really important to me, and so I said, I'm having a problem because the title page doesn't show, like, the location of my publishing company. What should I do about that? And so the person responded within a couple hours to basically said I had to create a new title page or create a title page from an image, which I did. So I was happy about that. I've had some other questions, and they've been pretty responsive about that. So that's a pretty good thing. So those are the pros. And I don't use this as a writing tool. So as I said before, I write in other tools, and then I imported it in using Microsoft Word. So I can't really comment on that part of it. But as a publishing tool, if you know what you're doing, I think it's a pretty powerful tool as a DIY type of tool, and you can do quite a bit with it. And actually, what I should probably just show you what the here's what the interior looks like of the paperback one. So this is it. I'm looking at this in Mac Preview. So this is a 2-page spread. So the first page is nothing. The second page is the title page. Table of contents. This is my copyright page. The contents, they are basically created dynamically based on the chapters that you upload, and then it automatically determines what the page number is, and that's great. It's a very simple, let's be honest here. This is a very simple table of contents, and when I had a interior designer before, I could do some really very special things with the table of contents, which I just can't do here. But as just a basic service, it's fine. You can see that the chapters are looking pretty good here. You can insert images. You can do block quotes. I think I put I didn't do a hard page break there. It's just that because there's an image that forced it to the second page. But I'd also like to use this opportunity to bring up a couple drawbacks of this type of software. So one thing is that you're kind of limited in some of the things that you can do with it. So yes, I can place an image like I did here or like I did here. I have a little bit of control over how big the image is, but I can't control the size of the padding around the image. So that was a kind of a negative thing for me, because in the old, using an interior designer, yes, you can set the padding to 30 pixels instead of 20 pixels. I can't do that here. I don't think I'm able to change the way that the text treatment takes place at the top here. So that's kind of a negative. So I found that for basic stuff, it's okay. Like I could include a blank page with an image on it, if it's in order to make sure that the chapters open up on the right side. And so I can do that. But other things are, you're a little bit limited in what you could do. Like, I remember when I uploaded this picture here, I was kind of bothered that there's like these big gaps above and below the picture, but I couldn't change the padding on the left side. And, there's nothing you can do there. The way that actually Atticus works for the style sheet, you have to go to the formatting tab, and they have all these kind of preset styles. And basically what I did is I took one of their presets and then I created a copy of it and then I modified it. So if I edit that, you can see kind of the stuff you have control over. Like chapter title is this size, chapter subtitle is this size, paragraph. Yes, I'm using drop caps. Subheadings, you can change the font size a little bit. You can see I don't have that much variation. Trim sizes, 6:9. So these are pretty standard. But outside of these presets that they have or these controls, there's just not a lot. There's not much control there. And that's what I guess you should expect that. This is like a relatively low cost tool to do layout and formatting for a KDP book. So it's not like InDesign where you can do lots of stuff, and that's a very expensive product, and a lot of training is required to use it. But at the same time, I started to notice the limitations of it when I was basically looking at the proofs like this one. A couple other cons about this particular book. Whoever designed this software tool, and I'm sorry, I haven't looked into the name of the founder, but the person is obviously a talented web programmer, but I think they appear to have come from the kind of the self-publishing side of the publishing world. And I noticed that at first when, as I said before, I was changing the title page, I couldn't include the location of my publishing company. And for all the other independent publishers out there, if you've ever dealt with the Library of Congress, you know that you need to have the location basically on the title page. It basically has to match whatever the Library of Congress submission form is for registering a control number. So this was not part of the kind of the default title page that Atticus lets you create, and that tells me that when the design was being done for the software, they just weren't aware of that particular requirement. Probably because they'd never done a Library of Congress control number application in the past. So, all right, that's fine, and there's a workaround, but that's just that kind of flows through to other parts of the software too. It's like things that should work in the way that an independent publisher would expect don't necessarily work that way. Although for most self-publishers, I think it'll be fine. Another major thing, and this also relates to kind of, I think, the way that self-publishers think about books versus the way that independent publishers think about books, is that there's no index. And like the index is like a major part of the book. And actually, for this particular book, the fact that I don't have an index is a huge drawback, in my opinion, because people will be looking for certain terms in this book. Yes, they can use the table of contents, but that's not the same as having a really good index. And in the past, the way that I created indexes was in Microsoft Word, has a very good indexing feature. It's kind of complicated to use, but I was able to create a really good index, which my designer was able to put in InDesign. So I think they said something like, "Yeah, we're working on something," but it was not definite when that will be coming out, that particular feature. So that's like, for a lot of independent publishers, if there's no index, that's actually something that just kills the appeal of the tool, because a lot of books, especially nonfiction or reference books, they do need an index, and this tool does not have it. There's no ability to make custom text formatting for a certain part. And let's go back to the title page again. So originally, when I learned that I couldn't put the location of my publishing company in the default title page that Atticus provides, I had to create one from scratch. So what I wanted to do was just to kind of use genealogy in 30 minutes, and this is an image. And originally I just had genealogy typed out, and I just wanted to make it the biggest possible font that it could be. But Atticus doesn't really give you a lot of fine-grained control over that. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So here is the new title page and editor settings. And so I can do things like I can increase the font size. I can scale it up or change the line height, but it's not exactly what I was looking for. Like, I wanted to make this text, 72-point Arial or whatever it is, Lato or whatever the name of the font is. I couldn't do it. So what I needed to do actually is, this is an image. I got an image from another book that we had about genealogy that looked really good. So I just created a new image file and stuck it in there. And so it looks okay, but I had to kind of do that workaround, and I couldn't make any kind of fine-tuned text changes on this particular page without kind of messing everything else up. So I wasn't too happy about that. Another thing that's really important to anyone who's running an independent publishing company is you work with collaborators. And the way that I work is I have proofreaders or other publishing associates going into the text to make changes, or maybe I'll ask them to make some changes or ask them to do something. Hey, can you fix the the full page image after the introduction just to make sure that it's the right image. So normally what I would do is I would ask my associate to do that, usually a freelancer or an independent contractor. I can't do that unless the other person purchases a full copy of the software. And that's just not going to happen. Like the person I'm working with, she usually just works in Microsoft Word. Maybe she might know Scrivener, but I'm not even sure about that. So if I force her to purchase another copy of Atticus, it's like I'm the only client of hers that uses this software. And I don't think that's really right to do that. I think there should be some sort of ability, kind of like with other tools like Canva or Dropbox, or even like Google Workspace, where you can kind of have a certain number of users for your organization, and then you can kind of assign the roles. Shopify does this too. But I just couldn't do that here, and it was really a bit, it was a bit of a letdown, because that means that my associate, I have to export a PDF and give it to her, and then just tell her to mark up the PDF or keep a separate text file for all the changes that need to be done. So that was not ideal. And I just think that there should be either two classes of user, like a primary user and a secondary user, or there should be some sort of license where a company, my company, can pay a certain amount of money. And it's not by the number of like full-on seats, and each seat is expensive. It's like there's just a number of users that could be in there using it, and there's a primary user, which is me, and then there's some secondary people, and there's like a flat fee for that. But forcing me to basically purchase a separate license for each associate that's working on this is just doesn't work for my workflow as an independent publisher who uses independent contractors. And this is the way I've been working, by the way, for many, many years. This is not new. If you're a self-publisher and you're kind of on your own, then it doesn't matter. But if you typically collaborate with other people, and then there's like a main person, a main editor, and then there's secondary people, like there should be some way to handle that. And Atticus just doesn't have it right now. I mentioned the problems with pictures. You can't address padding. Some other things that were happening was like, I would choose something from my image gallery, and I would select it, but then it would just kind of be, it wouldn't stick. So you can see what happened here. I had to actually upload the same image multiple times, and I couldn't create a new version of the page and then select the same image as before. So this is kind of, I think, wasting a lot of computing resources, and maybe it makes the file size bigger, which is not ideal. But so that's a kind of a drawback there. There are some other bugs as well. Like sometimes I made some changes, and then the change wasn't reflected the next time I opened up Atticus. That was I observed that with one of the chapter names here. And then the two final things that I want to, another bug was the PDF export hangs sometimes. So usually the way that I export the PDF is I'll press this green button here. Let's see if it works. So it's working pretty quickly right now. Sometimes it just hangs. It just doesn't work. So that wasn't ideal. Although usually what would happen is I wait and then I come back later and I can do it. The price seems a little high for what you're getting. So it's $150 for 1 year. And yes, that is a lot cheaper than using a graphic designer. I told you that the minimum charge would probably be at least $1,000 for the interior. But the quality level of the interior designer would be a lot higher. And then also, as I mentioned before, if I didn't want to use Atticus, I would have used the free Amazon tool that they have. I don't remember what it's called, but I'm perfectly capable of learning that, and it's free. So free versus $150, that's a big difference. And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure if I'm going to continue to use this tool after my 1 year is up. I'm thinking about it. If they improve some of the features, that will be helpful. The other thing that I was really disappointed to hear, and I asked the support about this, I said, do you have any plan? Are you planning on, like, if a author or a publisher like me is uploading books, are the books going to be used for some LLM training session, like training someone else's LLM, or giving my content to somebody else to train some tech company's AI? I don't like that. I think I should be paid for that. But they weren't really able to give me a clear answer on that. They said something like, we're not really sure what sort of AI integrations we're going to have in the future. It's like, that's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear like, no, your content is yours. We will not be letting any other third-party tech company or our own company use your books, use your copyrighted material for training purposes. That's what I wanted to hear, and I didn't hear it from them. So I don't know if they're going to if they're going to think that through, or maybe I don't know what they're planning. But I wanted a better answer and I didn't get it. So Atticus, I'm pretty impressed with what I've seen. There are some drawbacks, but the price is better than using an interior designer. On the other hand, maybe my content is going to be used by some AI in the future. So I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I'll probably create one more book using Atticus, basically a new edition of an older book. But after that, I'm not so sure. After my license expires, one thing I do recommend anybody doing if you're publishing is to create backups, and also you can create a Microsoft Word backup. So I'm doing that as well. So I'll be able to, maybe if I use another tool in the future, I'll be able to just flow it into that. But anyways, that's my Atticus review. I'm still kind of in the middle of the road, as I said before. But as a publisher, it was a pretty useful tool for me to have once my interior designer retired, and along with using Canva to do cover design. I think that's a pretty solid little kind of a temporary DIY package. So basically Canva for the cover, Atticus for the interior. Come back in a year and ask me if I'm still using Atticus, and I'll let you know. This is Ian signing off. If the video helped, please take a moment to like it and follow me, and I'll see you next time.